guys, I'm Emma, and today we are going to be talking with Brad Peterson. Brad and I work together at Grace Chapel. You may have seen him on stage. And Brad is actually a licensed counselor. Today we're going to be talking about anxiety and depression and mental health, specifically the kind of differences between the stigma of mental health and almost this idea of like a badge of honor that we could wear if we maybe struggle with anxiety or depression. So Brad, let's just dive into it. What is that idea of the stigma behind having a mental health issue?
Yeah, well, I think for years, I mean, mental health or being mentally ill has so many negative connotations and understanding, and it was like those crazy people or like insane asylums, or you take, themes from movies like the Joker and Batman, or like people that are way out there. And so to be labeled as having a mental illness or having mental health issues is associated with that. So we call that a stigma. It's something bad, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm not normal, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the stigma side. It's because to go get diagnosed or to have a diagnosis is almost like something I'm ashamed of, or I have to keep secret, or it somehow lowers me in the view of other people.
Yeah. So what is wrong or what's bad about that? Like having sort of an idea or a construct of, like, how is that unhealthy, or for somebody who maybe does have anxiety or depression, like to fall into that, what could that do? Right.
Well, it's shame about anything, whether, other things that we might be ashamed about is like having, family members that maybe have a criminal record, or, a parent might have a disability or something, and if there's a stigma attached to that, then people tend to hide and tend to maybe even tempted to lie, or to make up stories, or try to come up with a different reality, and that's just not healthy. That's not how we connect. I mean, to be known and fully known is a way that we connect as human beings, to know things about people and accept them. And so stigmas are really dividers, and they cause us to put up a facade or a fake self, because we're trying to hide the parts that we're afraid people might joke or poke fun or flat out bully or persecute us.
Yeah, definitely. Let's turn to our groups, and I want you guys to talk about what are maybe some things that just come straight to your mind when you hear anxiety or depression or mental health, and maybe how have you seen either yourself or other people fall into shame or trying to hide those things that they're going through? So why don't you guys pause the video and talk about that. All right, I hope you guys had a good conversation about that. I know that for me personally, when I've gone through anxiety in my past and depression, I've definitely tried to hide it from others, hid it from my parents and all of that. I know it can be really easy to feel ashamed, and that's not good, right? We're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but first, I think there's another side of the coin. If you are struggling with something with your mental health, there's also this tendency that I've seen in teens and even adults to kind of wear it as like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, this is who I am. I have anxiety. I am depressed. Things like that. Have you seen that, or?
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a badge of honor. I mean, that's what we're calling it, a badge, but it's almost like this is my pass, or this is my reason.
Yeah.
And so don't expect too much of me. Don't, I can be kind of odd or weird almost, like in a way that because of a diagnosis, which is valid and legitimate, even, but it almost like I'm above or outside of expectations or accountability. And so that's the part where I see people that might be able to hold down a job like later on as adults, but because they've had a diagnosis, it's kind of like, well, I don't really have to do that. And sometimes it's absolutely necessary that people, it is too much, it's too difficult to hold down a job or something like that due to a mental illness, which is fine. It's there for that. But then there's some people that I work with that I'm trying to encourage them that while this might be more difficult for you, it's not
Mhm.
impossible. And while you
Yeah.
may have anxiety, it does not define you.
Yeah.
And it may be that we have to work together. You may have to get more support,
Mhm.
or work through a few more steps than a normal person. Again, using the stigma language
Mhm.
a little bit, but just say, okay, I have anxiety, so I have to take certain measures, or certain things
Yeah.
are not attainable, or for me, or I have to take extra steps. But anyway, that's how I would say it. It almost is like a sense of identity. That would be the badge part.
Yeah.
And then a way to avoid relationships or avoid responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of the pass. Like, hey, I have a pass here.
Yeah.
I have anxiety.
I can definitely picture that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious too. I feel like, and I'm not a counselor, so I don't know if this is true, but I feel like we have more and more, specifically like young teenagers, almost self-diagnosing mental health to themselves. Have you seen that, or do you feel like that is a trend?
Yeah, something that's troubling for me, as an example, is when I was trained, a million years ago, it doesn't seem that far for me, but 2005, my understanding at that time was bipolar disorder, for
Mhm.
example, cannot be diagnosed before the age of 18.
Okay.
And what I'm realizing, learning, is that has shifted. And now you have children. I just heard an ad on the radio. Maybe you've heard it. If anyone listens to the radio anymore, I don't know.
Sure, country radio.
Sure, okay. But they're and we'll get to this in the next segment a little bit. But some of the good things that are happening with promoting mental health awareness, sports stars and different celebrities
Yeah.
are being more forthright about their mental health diagnosis and things. But in that, there's a child one about children who are suffering. And one of them is a little voice of a probably 10, 11-year-old saying, I have bipolar disorder.
Wow, yeah.
And it's like, wow, like it has changed. So that here is this child who's even before their development, their identity development years, because age 12 to 18 typically is when we kind of figure out who we are. And if you put a diagnosis on a child, that gets ingrained into their sense of, this is who I am. I am bipolar disorder, not just it is. I mean, I don't know. I get nervous even giving a child a diagnosis like that.
Yeah.
That is so significant that because it almost takes away their ability to develop a way of thinking and managing their emotions and their body chemistry even before they're even an adult.
Yeah.
And it just, so anyway, that's.
Yeah. I think, and identity is such a hard thing. Like, we struggle to be confident in our identities our whole lives, and so that's so hard as like younger and younger now. Kids are just having all these different angles and
and if it's helpful to put, I think, we were talking about it earlier, to put words to what people are feeling, or to put a term on it to know I'm not alone. Like, here's these 6 things that other people have reported for decades or hundreds of years, and so we're calling it this to go, oh yeah, I have all 6 of those things. That can be very relieving. I'm not unique in this way. There's not something horribly wrong with me. So I think in that way it can be helpful. But when people look at those 6 things and they think I'm destined to this, or this is who I am, or this is what I can expect the rest of my life, that's where I try to help my clients understand, this doesn't describe who you are. This describes maybe some traits that you might have for a while, or even if some of them are long term, there's other ones that you can kind of attack, if you will, or work on.
For sure. I remember in college I was diagnosed with anxiety, and it really freaked me out because it was nice to, like what you said, like put words to what I was experiencing, and it made me feel like I wasn't alone, I was understood, but it also felt a little bit scary, like I would have that for the rest of my life. And for some people that may be the case, but at least for me, like, it comes and goes a little bit more. And so but it is nice to have words. I'm curious to hear thoughts from you guys too. If you guys want to pause the video again, I'd love for you guys to have a group discussion of maybe what are some other badges that we wear. Maybe some of you wear a badge of anxiety or depression, and maybe you've fallen into this thing of understanding or believing that that's your identity, when I hope you guys all know your true identity is that you're a child of God first and foremost above all else. But I think it's really easy for us to just want to put like little name tags on ourselves of different things that we take on as who we are. And so I'd love for you guys to have a discussion on what are some other badges that we put on ourselves or even on others, and maybe how is that unhealthy or healthy? I want to know what you guys think. Okay, I cannot wait to hear all of the good insight that your groups had. We are gonna shift a little bit and talk about what is maybe the most healthy way to view either ourselves if we struggle with mental health or our friends. I think all of us know somebody who has struggled with anxiety in particular. And so what is, like, as a counselor, what's the most healthy way to either support yourself or support a friend?
Right. Well, I think most of our audience would understand, how do you support a friend? Let's say they're playing sports and, like my daughter, she tore her ACL or sprained her ankle or got a concussion.
Yeah.
Right.
She's had it all.
Right. So, okay. Now, we all laugh, right? So there are ways we could stigmatize my daughter. She's clumsy, she's a clutch, she's accident prone, or things like that, which unfortunately, in her case, because she has brothers, has happened, okay? So that would be an example of stigmatizing her. And the unfortunate thing is she's a very gifted athlete and has had some difficulties because her body has twisted and bent and gotten banged up in different ways. So what's the healthiest way? Is you would feel bad for them, and I recognize it is a thing. It's not, doesn't mean she's a bad person or isn't walking with God or whatever, is somehow inferior intellectually or anything like that. She just, it's unfortunate that happens. It happens it could happen to anybody. And so it's almost like, as it is with physical things that happen to people, and then they develop maybe conditions, or they, how many of you have known a friend that or have heard about someone that can't play sports because of a heart condition? Maybe it's a defect in their heart valves or something like that. It's genetic. And so hopefully you wouldn't tease them, or you wouldn't or they wouldn't take it on as, I'm a defective person, right? But I have a heart defect, or I have a torn ACL that's going to take a while to heal, so I can no longer participate. But there's things I can do, and there's things I can't do. And if I have good friends, they will support me in all the emotional highs and lows that go with that. They might, come and give me comfort, or say they miss me, or, all the things that my daughter did experience. So I think that there are very healthy ways that we all kind of know in other areas, and just making sure that we try to apply those to areas of mental health, that they are very real things happening. And as you know from your own experience, it's not stuff that you can just snap out of, or just think differently and everything goes away. Some of this stuff can be genetic, and you're predisposed to anxiety or depression particularly. Some of it can be ways that we think that we can learn different ways of thinking and different beliefs. And so just like a knee can get repaired and heal and you're back to normal, you can do that with anxiety. So it's just a matter of thinking it through a little bit and not getting sucked into the stereotypes or the stigma thing, or even allowing our friends maybe to wear it as a badge. That might be another thing a good friend would do, to say, hey, I know this is hard for you, but you're more than this, and I love you, and I'm sympathetic to that, but like if someone was to say, I have a concussion and I can't play sports and I'm doomed and this is awful, or all, it's like you try to talk your friend out of that.
I love that. And I think even too, it helps just talking and being honest. Like, maybe if you're going through something and you're open with your friend, then they're going to be more comfortable calling you up into who, like, God has called you to be, right? I think it's a lot easier for us to do that when we've been allowed to do that, by our friends saying, hey, don't let me, like, think this is all that I am for the rest of my life, when we can encourage one another in what we said earlier, that who you are is not, like, what you're going through does not define you for the rest of your life. Who you are as a child of God, no matter what. And so Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, I think especially for like our youth group kids or church families, whatever, you know, to understand that if you have something like anxiety and depression, it does not, although it can be influenced by how we, you know, what we believe about God or ourselves and that, but it is not a spiritual condition.
Yeah.
So you can be strong spiritually and still sprain your ankle. You can be strong spiritually and still suffer from depression. So I think it's important that we understand like a healthy view of some of these issues is that it can happen, and there's other reasons besides our maturity, besides our spirituality, that may cause us to end up with a mental health diagnosis and need for treatment. Just like, you know, I was talking earlier, I wear glasses. Not because I know, I can see them now because I have mine on. But it is just something that happens to our bodies. And because our brains are part of our bodies, and because we have chemical things going on in our brains, and we have a world that it affects our brains in different ways, and genetics and things like that we may end up with a predisposition to being more depressed or more anxious or other things. And so we may have to do some things outside of how God created us in order to maintain a healthy life. And so I think that's important to know about mental illness or mental health issues, is that sometimes they're just part of life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That all of that is so interesting to me, like kind of the science or like the origins of anxiety. And we're actually going to have another video with Brad where we dive a lot deeper into that topic. So make sure that you guys check that out once it's up on our YouTube. And I want to leave you guys, I kind of want to encourage you guys when this video ends to just as a group pray for one another. Let's encourage each other. Let's be what Brad said. Let's remind each other who we are. Let's, like, in our groups, that's what you guys are here for. That's what tribes are for, is for us to call each other up into who God has created us to be. And so when this video ends, that's what I want you guys to do, is just spend some time speaking truth over one another and praying as a group. And don't forget, we will have more conversations with Brad, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.